Hello everyone, so today I am here to do more 5-star predictions. I'm not gonna lie, I apologize, I did not look at my previous video of books that I read. I don't know if I finished all of them, but I wanted to make one at the beginning of this year, basically as books I want to read in 2021 that are on my physical TBR. As most of you guys know, my physical TBR is tiny. It's usually between 10 and 15 books, maybe 20 at the top. Right now I think it's about 20 because of Christmas and everything. So today I just want to talk about the 5 books that have really stood out to me, really called to me, and I truly think are going to be 5 stars. So if you're interested in other books that I really want to read this year that involve the classics or nonfiction that I want to read this year, I did put out another video that you guys can check out. But yeah, this is I don't have enough books on my TBR to make books I really want to read in 2021 that's just like from my TBR. So that's why I kind of split them up into a couple of videos. But yeah, today I'm going to be talking about the 5 books that I think are truly going to be 5 stars that are on my TBR right now. My TBR right now is filled with tiny books. I don't know how I managed to do this, but every single book I asked for Christmas was under 300 pages. I have no clue. I didn't even try to do that. So my TBR is just filled with tiny books. So that's why all of these are tiny. All of the books on my TBR right now are tiny. I have like 3 or 4 books that are over 300 pages. But yeah, let's get right on into it. The first one I think is going to be a 5-star is Before the Coffee Gets Cold, Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. And this is the second book to Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which is a book that I read in 2019? I think 2019. And I absolutely loved it. So I truly think that this sequel is going to be just as good as the first, hopefully. I mean, honestly, maybe I shouldn't put this on here because I never like sequels as much as the first book, but I'm very, very hopeful. This author just seems incredibly talented and their stories just seem amazing. So I have very, very high hopes for this one. So if you haven't read the first one, highly recommend. If you didn't know this was out, highly recommend. The next one is a book that I have not seen anyone talk about. I never really listen to BookTube. I very rarely want books I hear about from BookTube. You guys all know this. A lot of you comment that you really enjoy that about me. But one of the things that I still personally do is just walk into a bookstore, usually a indie bookstore or a used bookstore, and I just pick up books that I've never heard of but sound interesting to me. And this is one of those, and that is One Night, Two Souls Went Walking by Ellen Cooney. And this is a book that I picked up just at one of the local bookstores in town. I think I actually have a vlog for it. And it just sounds amazing, and I really think it's going to be great. It's basically about a young woman who works in a hospital, and she deals with the dead and the souls, and kind of the in-between of life and death. And she also has like a companion dog who may or may not be a ghost, but she basically works at nighttime and makes the rounds at the hospital for the people who are dying. This was on the table that I thought was so interesting in the story, and I bought 2 books from it, of basically books that we can relate to now that we have lived through a pandemic and are still living in a pandemic, because the pandemic is not over. If anyone wanted to know, people are dying every 8 minutes in California from COVID. So, yeah, this is one of the books that was on that table, and it wasn't like dystopian books. It was more books that have to do with kind of the internal and more personal dealings when you have gone through or are going through a pandemic. And this one seems to be on that side of dealing with death. A lot of death, and hospitals being over capacity and that kind of thing from a nurse's point of view with a speculative twist. So I'm really, really interested in this. And yeah, it says an intelligent novel that grants the most challenging moments of the human experience a shimmer of light and magical possibility. So I also do think it's a little bit of magical realism with that speculative twist. So I am so hopeful about this one. I truly think it's going to be brilliant. Speaking of not picking up books based on BookTube reads, I feel like this is not a BookTube read. This is just a Books and Lala read. But I have Follow Me to Ground by Sue Rainsford. I saw Kayla talk about this in one of her books, and Kayla is one of the only booktubers that I still take recommendations from because she and I do have very similar taste in weird books. And this was one of the books that she really enjoyed this year. I don't think it was like her favorite book, but I remember her talking about it and thinking it was really great. And so I asked for it for Christmas. It is, again, super tiny. But this is basically about like a family who deals with the dead. Do I have a theme in my book picks? Yeah, this is about like a family in this village that basically deals with the dead bodies of people who have died in the village, but that also includes like a ceremony that helps them go to the afterlife. I think something about with their souls or with their like bodies. I don't know. It's apparently really creepy, but also very speculative and magical realism-y, and also again dealing with death. So I apparently have a theme with the books that I've been getting recently. The next one I have not heard a single person talk about. It's just been on my list of books that I was interested in that were coming out in 2020, and that is The Harpy by Megan Hunter. And this is a book that I think is also speculative and magical realism-y. Not totally sure. Yeah, it says part revenge tale, part fairy tale. So I guess a little bit magical realism-y. But this, I think the basic premise is that this woman finds out that her husband is cheating on her from the husband of the woman who her husband is cheating on her with. And they like get together and plot revenge, I think is the basic premise. So it's kind of like a thriller, but then also there is this magical fairy tale-esque thing to it, I guess. This cover also just absolutely caught my eye. And when I did read that description and was like, ooh, it's kind of magical realism-y, I was like, that cover is really calling to me, so I got it for Christmas. The next book might be the one that I'm the most excited about, like my highest expectations, is Notes of a Crocodile by Q Miao Jin, and this is a book, a Taiwanese book translated from Chinese into English by Bonnie Hui, and this is a, do I even need to say more than this? This is a piece of queer Chinese classic, modern classic literature. I think it's from like the 1980s, 1970s. Do I need to say anything else? Queer Chinese literature, queer translated literature, please. I feel like I don't read enough Chinese literature, so from China or Taiwan, so I'm very, it's like, it's described as speculative and postmodern and magical realism and surrealism, and I literally have no clue what the actual, it's apparently a coming-of-age story about queer misfits discovering love, friendship, and artistic affinity while hardly studying at Taiwan's most prestigious university. Hardly studying. I feel that. But yeah, this, oh my gosh, ever since I got it recommended to me by, I think, a subscriber, I have been so interested in checking this out. Any sort of translated literature usually calls out to me when people recommend it. But queer translated, oh my god, is there more that I could possibly ask for? Also, I love the cover, and I love the title. I just find that so interesting. And again, anything described as surreal or postmodern or magical realism, sign me up. I love postmodernism. So, this sounds so good, and I think this is probably my highest on the list of, I think this is going to be a new favorite book. So, hopefully it doesn't suck. But yes, these are the 5 books that I think are going to be 5 stars on my current TBR at the very beginning of 2021. So yeah, definitely tell me down in the comments below if you read any of these, what you thought of them, if you think I'm gonna like them. No spoilers, please, because obviously I haven't read these books yet. But yeah, just tell me what you think. Also, yeah, if you have any other queer translated literature or Chinese literature in general, again, because I feel like I have not read enough Chinese literature, also leave those recommendations down in the comments below. So yeah, anyways, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video, and I love y'all, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye!